Hi everyone, hope you're doing well. Right, so I'm going to start to take a look at the guitar solo from 18 Miles to Memphis by the Stray Cats. So it's in the key of A. You know, and like I always say, we'll take a look at the chords, you know, in like a complete tutorial dedicated to them. But, you know, just before the solo starts, you know, we're coming from like the end of the chorus. So we just take our A major bar chord, 5th fret on the 6th string, 7th fret on the 5th and 4th strings, 6th fret on the 3rd, and 5th fret on the 2nd and 1st. And we're going to kind of do like an alternating bass on the 6th string, so I'll play like the 5th fret of the 6th string and then the chord, and then I'm going to just move my finger down a little bit so I can make it open, the open 6th string. You know, and not too hard. I guess I'm doing a little bit of kind of muting as in between each of those strikes. Into an E7. 7th fret on the 5th string, 6th fret on the 4th, 7th fret on the 3rd, and 5th fret on the 2nd. And with our 3rd finger, we'll again do a kind of an alternating bass between the 7th fret on the 5th string and 7th fret on the 6th string. So just before the solo starts, that little kind of rhythmical, there's a kind of a, just before we hit that first little double stop, almost like a muted kind of strike. It's just because basically, his motion isn't stopping. And although he's not really playing notes as such, moving from one chord to this next kind of figure, that's how often we'll catch these kind of muted strings. So we've got the 5th fret on the 1st and 2nd strings, then 7th fret on the 2nd string and 8th fret on the 1st string. Play those together and bend slightly sharp. We play that 3 times. It kind of sounds, because after the 3rd one, we're going to go to this bend. So, like Brian seems to put a little more emphasis on these, like the second part of this double stop, bending those slightly more than the 3rd. I guess just because he's got to get to this bend. So then the 4th time we play the double stop on the 1st and 2nd strings again at the 5th fret, and then we kind of follow through with this bend. So I'm on the 8th fret of the 3rd string. The typical bend will be on the 7th, but here we get this kind of bit of a kind of bluesier sound using this the blues note. And by kind of pushing through the string, you kind of catch the 2nd and 1st also, which is still barred at the 5th fret. Doesn't really need much of a push because it's only a step below its kind of target note. And then we play the 5th fret on the 1st and 2nd strings 2 times. So it plays that whole thing 2 times, that kind of little motif. And this time, the kind of, I guess it is a kind of a triple stop bend again. but really putting more emphasis. You know, the second and first strings are really ringing through just as a consequence of the kind of strike on the third string. We do want them to bleed all together, but really the emphasis on the third string. And you know, don't fret too hard and don't bend too hard. Even make it a bit kind of choked and lazy. Then, because of a lot of this motion, a lot of these things are kind of caught just rhythmically moving from one thing to the next. So that's basically, so after that bend, we do 2 times. Again, I kind of catch the first and second strings at the 5th fret. I guess really the target notes, the 7th fret of the 3rd string, but we kind of catch the 7th fret on the 2nd and 3rd strings, you know, I guess by just flattening the fingers. So then, 5th fret on the 3rd and 2nd strings, hammer into the 6th fret on the 3rd string. I guess that kind of hammer on being a bit more dominant, although we do want the kind of double stop sound. Then 7th fret on the 4th string. And we kind of sort of complete the chord by putting down now, you know, this little A major shape. You know, I'm doing that just by barring the first 3 strings at the 5th fret and then my second finger on the 6th fret of the 3rd string. Or it could be a down, but I think up is good because we'll go into this next kind of like, you know, our target is this A7, which is the 9th fret on the 3rd and 1st strings, and then our first finger is on the 8th fret of the 2nd string. And that's kind of played, you know, with this kind of like rising tremolo thing. Not really sure how many. Yes, 5 times, but I'm not really going for many. It's just kind of sliding in. In the beginning, if you know, before you know, if you're having trouble getting that up to a kind of a speed, you know, it's even better to just play it just as a, you know, one slide to get to the target. Better to play it clean, and then it makes sense rather than, you know, practice and get it sort of, you know, away from, you know, if you're playing it sort of live and you want it to sound good. But even that's fine. I guess things like that, it's just trying to get to, you know, the synchronization. I'm not really thinking of one hand or the other, it's just this hand knows it's going, and don't fret too hard, you know, you want to make sure that you get the notes to sound, but at the same time, to our 4 chords, so we'll, which we'll sort of start to take a look at in the next part of this lessons for this solo. So yeah, give that a try, and you know, again, with, like I always say with Brian's solos, it's not that these things are difficult, but he puts them together and plays them so fluidly and rhythmically. That's what I think is the most difficult part. Things like all of this, the very traditional kind of double stops and ideas, but to get them to kind of swing the way Brian does, that's the difficult part. Right, so give that a try, and yep, have fun, take care, and I'll see you next time. Cheers.